Syamali, Didi?
I'll just move to you.
Yeah, once you sit here.
Dandavats, Prabhu.
Dandavat pranams. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lovely to see you.
So that was a beautiful share. I want to offer my obeisances. So, Omagyanna Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Narayana Gosvami Iti Namane. So, like everyone, I have a kind of convoluted story as to how I actually met Gurudev. But, you know, it's like the Guru finds you, right? So I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher and a practitioner of Kundalini yoga for 30 years. And that is influenced by the Sikh faith. And I had read in their book, the Sri Guru Granth, you know, I was quite familiar with and had read what's called the Kanpats many times, which is a very beautiful, mystical experience. And I was raised Christian. So, but I felt that I was always somewhat inimical to a traditional religious path. I wasn't drawn to it. I wasn't drawn to take Amrit. I loved the Sikh faith. I love Sikh religion. I love the Sikh people. They're amazing. And, you know, and I have been trained to be a Kundalini yoga teacher's trainer. So I went very deeply in that path. And my mentor had suggested that I watch Gurdwara lectures by Yogi Bhajan, who is the one who brought the Kundalini yoga to the West. And in those lectures on the Gurdwara, he said that you can't really trust a person unless they have a faith. And I thought, that's interesting. And at this time, when I met Gurudev and Prabhupada, I actually met them through their pictures. There's a wonderful devotee who you're going to hear from later, and a lot of you know him, Nimai Chaitanya, who lives here in New England, and he's an Ayurvedic and acupuncturist, Ayurvedic practitioner and acupuncturist. So I had some health issues, and I was recommended to go to see him. And he has in his office pictures of Gurudev and Prabhupada, who I didn't know who they were. And you go into his office first. He usually sends you in to get comfortable and sit down before he comes in. And I always felt the call of Prabhupada's picture was effulgent. It was like they were there. They weren't normal pictures. It wasn't normal pictures. And so whoever these people were, I always paid my obeisances to them and spoke to them because they seemed to be speaking to me. But I didn't ever talk to Nimai about that. I just paid my obeisances every time I went for my treatments. And I was going quite frequently because it was a serious thing. So, but Nimai's process is to sit you down and to talk to you what's going on, you know, what's going on emotionally, what's going on this, what's going on with that. And we would talk about the Kundalini path, and he would always say, don't you want to go deeper? Don't you want to go deeper? And I would be like, what is he talking about? Go deeper. What is he talking about? And he would always invite me to come to programs, and he would come. He wanted to start a Jaiva Dharma group, and I was hesitant because of the fact that I had this association with the Sikh path. And it's like, why do I want to confuse myself and go to this other path? You know, you should commit, you should be strong, you should stay with your path. So the first person that came to speak was Tridandi Swami. And out in front of before we were going, I met Rasamrita, who would become my husband. And I just walked up to him and started talking to him because I assumed he was going in, and he had this funny look on his face when I met him. He just looked struck. And I didn't really pay much attention. And then I met Tridandi Swami, and he also took an interest in me. He was like, you must have realizations, you must. And I just was kind of looking at him like, I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't know what you're talking about. But what Tridindi Swami had was this amazing poster of from all the planetary system up to Goloka. And I had been teaching Samkhya philosophy, and it was like not colorful as that, not as expanded as that, not as like, wow, what is that? And I just was totally struck by that and wanted to know more. And we started having kirtans in the area, and we were very fortunate. We were having lots of kirtans, but we, for some reason, I guess it was Nimai again, he invited Vamana Maharaj to come speak at this kirtan. And I really didn't know who Vamana Maharaj was. I didn't know the etiquette. I didn't know anything. It was just very worldly and not really aware. But Yogi Bhajan always said, one day you will melt like wax. One day you will melt like wax. So I'm sitting on the couch, and all that happens is Vamana Maharaj walks by, and my intellect can't describe it, but melting is just the word. And I thought, well, whatever that is, I need to follow that. Whatever that is, I need to follow that. And Vamana Maharaj, he sat down on the Vyasasan, or the chair that was provided for him, and he looked at us like, these are not devotees, but he still showered his mercy on us. And I could see, we have a very small Sangha here, but very devoted people, and Nimai is at the core. So it's Jayashree, Kalanidhi, her husband, Madhuri, my husband, Sramarupa, myself, Nimai, his wife. But we're so fortunate because we've had so many Vaishnavas come and give us their association. But Nimai invited me to come to Badger. So I decided, okay, whatever this is, I'm going to Badger. And we've been reading Jaiva Dharma, but I never asked any questions about Gurudeva. I really didn't, need any more evidence than the fact that my heart had melted. So my sister lives in San Francisco, so I flew out there, and she had camping gear, so I gathered her camping gear, and she decided she wanted to come with me because I said, it's really beautiful where it is. It's up in the mountains in Yosemite. You need to come. So she came. And when we first arrived, Gurudev wasn't there yet, right? And we were talking, and I had the good fortune, because of Nimai and Nimai's association, to sit down with CB, who Shamarupa's mentioned, and Prempyojan and Jayashree and a few other devotees. And we were having a conversation, and we were talking about the expansions that can come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the number of worlds that expand from him. And I remember Prempyojan saying, I don't remember the number, that it was a very large number. And I remember thinking, that's not what it says in Japji, which is a scripture of the Sikhs. It's like 18,000 worlds or something like that, right? And I remember just making a pause and just like, how to reconcile these differences in the Shastra. And then, but what I noticed there in Badger was that it was incredibly pure and beautiful, and everyone was so kind and elevated and patient, and spoke so elevatedly and kindly, and it was very pure. I mean, I'd never been in such an environment that was so pure. And as I was around these people, and I decided that I wanted to sort of go over to the house where Gurudev was. And people were gathering because he hadn't come yet. He hadn't come. And so I was very excited. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to see him. And everybody was getting all excited and all this intention was coming. And they were all jumbled up at the back of the house by the garage where his bedroom was on that side. So he was going to come out that way. And so the women were there and the men were there and the kids were there and everybody's all jumbled up, right? And Gurudev comes out like a thunderbolt and says, women in back, men in front, and just took off. And I was so shocked that the women were told to be in the back. I was like, what is that? You know, and I just ran away and ran onto a wall to sit. And I burst into tears because I was so shocked by the rebuke, you know, that, you know, you can't even get close to him. You can't even, you know, I hear I'm going to take, my heart is melted and this is what you do with it. You know, I'm just bawling tears. And I think I've jumbled this up, but there was a Sikh man that was also a devotee. He's from, he lives in British Columbia. And I had kind of approached him to talk to him because I think he could understand where I was coming from. And he's just so kind to me. He just adopted me, taking it under his wing. And he's looking at me absolutely helpless as I'm bawling like this, like, what can I do? What can I say? And I remember Syamali coming after Gurudev had made the procession and he was coming to give Harikatha. And Syamali walked through and she said, I know that you are upset. I know many of you are upset because the women are in back. So, you know, he's just trying to protect you. But it really shocked me. It really put me in this place of, okay, this is not an easy person to be around. And then he when he was talking, he would ask people to speak. And if they weren't absolutely prepared and absolutely shastrically on, he would ask them to sit down, just sit down. So it was very clear that you did not, you weren't going to raise your hand. You weren't going to be out of line. You wanted to make sure everything was pukka and everything was in order before where you were around this person. It was quite, I don't know, put in my place as the word. And everyone, they had the yagya and everyone had taken Harinam and gotten their initiation. And I did not do that. I was still on the fence. And I had a long conversation with Raghunath, who is the Sikh from Vancouver. And he was saying, oh no, Gurudeva is very high. You really must, this is your one opportunity. You need to do this. So I approached Nimai and said, I want to get initiation. So the next day he arranged. So I went to meet Gurudev in his room. And there were people in the room, and Nimai and I went, but not a lot of people. And Gurudev was sitting on his bed, and everything was very beautiful. It was his clothes were folded. He was just sitting on his bed, and there were just a couple other people going to also get Harinam, and they were ahead of me. It was a couple. And I remember them saying, you have to go to his bed. You have to go to his bed. And I was like terrified. I mean, it's like, go to his bed? This is a very high person. I mean, at any time I'd been around him, all of my anartas, all of my stuff was in my face. And I felt like everything that I'd ever done in my whole life was just very impure and very, 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 everything just coming in my face, how miserable and lowly I had been and how pure he was. So I came to his bed and I'm sitting by his bed and I'm thinking, I can't believe I have to chant the Maha Mantra to him. All I know is that you have to sing it from your heart. You just have to sing it from your heart. So I sang the Maha Mantra, and then he patted on his bed and he asked me to sit right next to him. And so I sat right next to him, and I had purchased a set of beads. I thought that's what you did. I purchased a set of beads and I brought them. And he looked at me like, what are you doing? And he picked up the beads and he just looked at them like, like they were like really horrible, you know. He just looked at them and he kind of went like that, and he looked at them and he said, these are okay. These are okay. And then he looked at me and he said, there are no rules. And there are millions of universes. Krishna is everywhere. And there are millions of universes. So that a moment, I knew that he had heard that conversation, that he had answered my question, and that he had met me just where I was. And so then I decided that I needed to collect dakshin. And everybody had done it the day before, and so people were not that enthusiastic. But I was able to collect a little dakshin, and it was one of the most amazing experiences because I'd never done anything like that. Sikh faith is, you know, they don't have a physical guru, they have a book, they have, you know, it's a very different way of approaching spiritual life, not through a realized soul. So this was new to me. And so I collected the dakshin, and then I was like, well, how am I going to get this to Gurudev? How am I going to get this to him? So I was talking to Nimai, and we went outside the compound where you speak the Harikatha, where the kitchen is. And we were standing, and usually there were everybody who was in the camp would be there greeting Gurudev. But when Gurudev came round, it was just Gurudev and Brajana. That was it. It was Gurudev, Brajana, myself, and Nimai. I had the money, and I was talking to Nimai, and Gurudev caught my eye, and he had the sweetest smile, the sweetest, kindest, most loving smile, like, I approve, you've done well, you've done a good job. And he walked toward me, and I said to Nimai, should I touch his feet? And he said, yeah, you can touch his feet. So I bent down, and he had like those Crocs, you know, those Crocs. And I touched his feet, and I came up and I gave him the dakshin, which he took in his hand. And then he passed it on to Brajanath very, very quietly. Just Brajanath took it, and he just smiled at me, turned his head, and kept walking. So that's my relationship with Gurudev, is that smile, those piercing blue eyes, and that fact that he has given so many Vaishnavas. We've been so fortunate. Didi Swami came and stayed with us. Bhagavat Maharaj came and stayed with us. Shamarani came. Didi came. Vajanath and his Brinda Devi and Prem Priyojan came, and Ashram Maharaj. We've been so fortunate. So fortunate. It was so, and without their association, I would be absolutely lost. Without Didi Swami's guidance, I'd be absolutely lost. So I feel that Gurudev, and there are more. I mean, his bodyguard came. What was his name? Shoti Maharaj came. Avadut Maharaj. So we've been very blessed, and so I've been very held. And this call and everyone in the worldwide Sangha, I am so grateful for. So absolutely grateful for. And I've been slowly moving away from that sadhana that I had very, you know, the sadhana is you get up at 3:30, you do yoga, you chant Jodshri, Japji, you do an hour of chanting. And I did that in Braj, but slowly I've turned that into chanting just the Maha Mantra. I still do my yoga, but and read Bhagavatam and all the things, all the shastras that we were reading. So I don't know if I've gone too long, but I want to say Vanchakalpa Trubhyastra Kripa Sindhu Evatra Patitanam Pavenabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Very beautiful, Didi. Thank you so much. Actually, I've associated quite a lot with Sikhs, and of all the religions, just talking in general terms, I seem to be able to connect more with Sikhs than anyone else. They seem to be the most open and receptive. And I believe what I've read is that Guru Nanak actually worshipped Govinda. So there is some.
Yes,
there
it's
is
true.
Yeah.
In the Japji, they mention Krishna and the gopis and Shastra and Srimatis, and Guru Nanak met Chaitanya
Mahaprabhu.
Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, which is
But
really
you know, in
extraordinary.
the secret, there's a secret inner meaning that you can penetrate in the Srila Guru Granth to go all the way to Krishna, and he will, that will be guided. We still do that, and whenever we read it, it's like they call it a hukam, you know, it's like it speaks directly to where you are, and it always brings up Krishna, and always cuts you like a guru, exactly where, if you're off a little bit, it'll push you back. It's quite amazing. So there's no real dichotomy, but really they only take it to the Parakya Ras is a little out of their realm. It's in the Prabhupati. It's in the you know, it's more Aishwarya, really.
When I went to a Sikh exhibition which celebrated all their gurus, I really got a strong sense that they are actually there is a lot of hidden personalism that's being, where the current modality is to emphasize the impersonalism. And I remember that Gurudev actually preached this to the Sikhs when we used their temple in Birmingham. He reminded them of the personal goal. So it's very interesting. Could you just Zoom chat that gentleman who's in British Columbia, who's a Sikh? I remember meeting him in Badger and really liking him, but I can't remember his name. If you don't mind WhatsApping me his name, I'd be very grateful.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But you know, we should ask Tridindi Swami, because my memory, I meant to stay in touch with him. I think he's Raghunath, but I meant to stay in touch with him. But through circumstances, it didn't happen. But Tridindi Swami is very close with him.
Oh, Tridandi is?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, we have something in common, because Tridandi Maharaj was and is instrumental in my Krishna consciousness, and he was the person who first told me about Srila Gurudev when I was taking prasadam overlooking Seva Kunj in '96. I hadn't met Gurudev yet, and he bounced in like, I described him like Tigger in Winnie the Pooh, full of enthusiasm. I had no idea what he was talking about, but it sounded great, and it led me to Srila Gurudev.
Yeah.
So, and he's always been such a patient teacher.
He's a
so thank you so.
teacher.
And actually, your husband, he reminded me of the clarity of Srila Gurudev, and your sharing reminded me of the simplicity of Srila Gurudev. Just simple heart connection, and really brought me back to that basic point of simplicity of heart, which is such an essential part of. And you can't read about that. You can't get that from necessarily a book. That's something that's transferred either from Gurudev or from a disciple of Gurudev, or somebody who understands the Vani of Gurudev. That simplicity, that Brij Basi simplicity, actually. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Prabhu, for putting this together. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank Cheeky from me, and hopefully one day she'll chase me around the house.
Yes, you have to come.
And I can't wait to be chased by. If I don't get chased by Cheeky, I'll be very disappointed.
You can talk to Tridindi Swami about that. He's like, oh,
I can't wait. I think that's so funny. I could almost write a children's book about that.